A warm welcome to our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. Thanks for joining us on the program today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here's what's coming up within the half hour. Authorities in Australia named 3 more victims of the Bondi Beach shooting that killed 15 people. The BBC says it will defend the $5 billion lawsuit filed by U.S. President Donald Trump against the media over its edit of Trump's January 6th speech on a Panorama documentary. Plus, a French court sentences former DRC rebel leader Roger Lumbala to 30 years in jail for complicity to crimes against humanity. Let's begin the world today. We're learning more now. In the aftermath of the shooting at Bondi Beach in New South Wales, Australia, authorities have announced 3 more victims out of the 15 killed on Sunday. One of the gunmen, 50-year-old Sajid Akram, was found dead at the scene of the attack. His son, 24-year-old Akram, has reportedly gained consciousness in hospital. A dash cam footage also shows 2 citizens trying to stop one of the alleged attackers in an effort to protect others. The police is also investigating a trip taken to the Philippines by the 2 alleged gunmen in the month before the attack. Following reports that they went to receive military-style training. Gun violence are not common in Australia. Rules toughened up in the wake of the Port Arthur massacre of 1996, which saw 35 people killed and scores more injured in lone gunman Martin Bryant. It prompted sweeping gun reforms across Australia, including a 28-day waiting period during which a prospective buyer's background is checked. In London, hundreds of people attended the vigil in Parliament Square for the victims of the Bondi Beach shooting. Attendees listened to speeches, lighting menorahs and holding up flashlights and Israeli flags in show of solidarity with the Jewish community. Several political figures attended the vigil, condemning the attack and urging unity in the face of rising anti-Semitism.
We just experienced one of the worst forces of evil, taking away some of the best people that were doing the best job that they could, spreading light, bringing goodness to people. The best way. What's our mission for this? Our mission is not to be sad and upset or be scared. We don't give in to terrorism. Our mission now is to fight back with light, with spreading goodness. Do another good deed to someone else. Go out of your way to be nice to someone else. That's the way we fight back. That's the message of Hanukkah. Well, again, anti-Semitism isn't a new thing. It's been existing for a few thousand years. And again, our mission as Jews is just to be a light to the nations and to spread more light, and that's all we could do. We're going to fight back anti-Semitism by spreading more light.
For all of us, Hanukkah started in the most devastating possible way, with the news from Sydney that people, including British-born rabbi, father of 5, had been mown down by terrorists seeking to extinguish the light that those people were trying to light. 10-year-old Matilda, Holocaust survivor, it didn't matter to them. They were Jews and they deserved to die. So we stand here in solidarity with them to honor their memory, but also in an act not only of defiance, but of celebration. We are here tonight to light our lights regardless, to spread light in the darkness, and to celebrate Hanukkah.
And let's be clear what happened. Jews celebrating their festivals were gunned down simply because they were Jews. And we have seen that before. On the 7th of October, Jews in Israel were gunned down on a festive day simply because they were Jews.
We celebrate the fact that light always pierces through darkness. It beats darkness. It always will overcome darkness because it fights through it. It is determined. And that, friends, is the power of light. And to all of us, as we mourn those we miss so deeply, as we cannot believe what is truly going on, seemingly on every Jewish festival, we must
Reactions to the shooting at Bondi Beach have reached the United Nations. Representatives of Israel, Australia and the US condemned the deadly attack. A counter-terrorism investigation is underway, focusing on the attackers' movement, possible accomplices and extremist links.
There are strong movements today that feed on these false narratives, and there are member states that benefit from spreading them. Hatred towards Israel becomes hatred towards Israelis. Hatred towards Israelis becomes hatred towards Jews. Words of hate become slogans of extremism and anti-Semitism, and slogans become actions that spread fear and ignite violence. Violence becomes terror. We can't stay silent, and we'll continue to respond whenever and wherever needed. Chair, I want to take a moment and express our solidarity with the Australian people and the Australian Jewish community following the horrific terror attack yesterday in Bondi Beach. The targeting of Jewish families celebrating at the beginning of Hanukkah is a terrorist act of evil anti-Semitism. Today, we will light the second candle of Hanukkah. For 8 nights, Jews around the world will gather with their families and friends to celebrate the holiday and light the menorah candles. With each passing day, the light will grow, reminding us that light always prevails over darkness. We send our condolences to the families of the victims and our wishes for recovery to the wounded. The State of Israel stands today, and will always stand, with the Australian Jewish community. We grieve those who have suffered and stand in solidarity with victims of terror everywhere. And I repeat, Mr. President, our words here matter.
I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the devastating attack at Bondi Beach on Sunday, which was a targeted assault on Jewish Australians on the first day of Hanukkah at an iconic Australian location where people from all over the world were congregating in peace. All Australians are grieving today, as we extend our deepest condolences to everyone who lost loved ones. On behalf of the Australian Government, I thank the many member states who have provided messages of condolence and solidarity. Your support matters greatly. I would also like to acknowledge the condolences just offered by my colleague from Israel's mission.
In other news, the BBC says it will defend a $5 billion lawsuit filed by US President Donald Trump against the organization over an edit of his January 6, 2021 speech in a Panorama documentary. Trump accused the broadcaster of defamation and a violation of violating a trade practices law, according to court documents filed in Florida. The BBC apologized to Trump last month, but rejected his demands for compensation and disagreed there was a basis for a defamation claim. Trump's legal team accused the BBC of defaming him by intentionally, maliciously and deceptively doctoring his speech. A BBC spokesperson said, in his words, as we have made clear previously, we will be defending this case. In his speech on January 6, 2021, before a riot at the U.S. Capitol, Trump told a crowd, "We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women." More than 50 minutes later in the speech, he said, "And we fight like hell." Now, in the Panorama program, a clip showed him as saying, "We're going to walk down to the Capitol and I'll be there with you, and we fight like hell." Let's bring in our Washington correspondent, Maria Bird. Maria, great to see you as always. The U.S. president has shown no toleration for media freedom. Could his grouse with the BBC perhaps also have to do with the fact that the Democrats accused him of instigating the insurrection on January 6, when, as we now understand, he did not?
Yes, I think this is heavy to do with the fact that there was obviously all types of cases in the Congress, hearings in Congress related to the fact that whether the president was involved in the January 6th attacks. That has been a conversation obviously since the last election cycle. I think the president at this time obviously is looking at where the media played a role in that, and we know that oftentimes he's spoken out against the media, and specifically in this case with the BBC, and putting those two clips together, as you mentioned, is heavily due to what he's experienced over the past couple of years as it relates to the Senate, the House, in regards to his involvement. We know that obviously that did not stop him from winning the most recent election. And being reelected into office. But he has been very clear that he was not involved in the January 6th attacks. And he has been very clear that those allegations, and obviously this is an additional piece that he wants to make sure that people understand was not accurately portraying him from his perspective.
Well, this is not the first time President Trump has gone after the media. A number of organizations in the United States have been on the receiving end of his defamation suits. So is the BBC just another addition to the roster?
Yes, he has definitely addressed it for across many media networks here in the United States. And obviously, I think he has addressed those, and potentially he feels he's in a better place with some of the media organizations and networks here in the U.S. And so the BBC's portrayal of him is, as you mentioned, is the next step in what he probably, there's been a line. What we understand here is that the president was very clear walking into office, areas, individuals, organizations that he felt were not necessarily portraying him accurately, and that he was going to ensure that whether or not he brought lawsuits, as he is in this case, or addressed it directly while in office. And so I think this is just one of those items that was potentially on his list.
Maria, just how would this case impact on the Trump administration going forward?
Well, it's, you know, we've seen, as you mentioned, right here in the United States, having these types of lawsuits. It hasn't necessarily impacted his administration. The timing of it all, we're at the holiday season, so many Americans are really focusing not so much on what's happening politically, and unfortunately, we've had some pretty challenging times over the past couple of days, and so those have taken more of attention. So it'll likely, you know, kind of go through, and with the beginning of the year coming very soon, it will have probably minimal impact on his administration and the work that they're doing moving forward.
Now, speaking generally, is there still press freedom in the United States? You consider that there is still press freedom?
By the law, by the Constitution, the press have the freedoms. Do many press feel as though they are being suppressed? Have we seen, if you think about many of the Pentagon journalists who were regulars at the Pentagon have now no longer have their press credentials there. There's a whole new group of press that are covering. And so the question is the full story? Are some of the freedoms that press felt they had previously now being somewhat suppressed, even if it's not legally? But due to some of the rejections or press deciding not to cover certain parts of the administration. The White House press corps does look different in some ways. And so I think it's an interesting time. Many would say it's a challenging time, but it's an evolving time, especially as it relates to the freedom of the press here in the United States.
Thanks again, Maria, for the update. We're staying a bit longer in the United States. President Donald Trump has repeated his criticism of Hollywood director Rob Reiner, who was found dead in his home recently. Trump told reporters the director was very bad for our country, having earlier written on Truth Social that Reiner's death was linked to Trump derangement syndrome, a term he often uses to describe his critics. Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, were found dead at their Los Angeles home on Sunday. Police have arrested their son, Nick, on suspicion of murder. In his social media post, which called the couple's death very sad, Trump criticized Reiner, saying he was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump. Those comments were widely criticized, including by prominent Republicans. Well, a BBC World Service investigation has found the desperate parents of sick or dying children are being exploited by online scam campaigns. The public have given money to the campaigns, which claim to be fundraising for life-saving treatment. The BBC identified 15 families who say they got little to nothing of the funds raised and often had no idea the campaigns had even been published, despite undergoing harrowing filming. Non-families spoken to, whose campaigns appear to be products of the same scam network, say they never received anything at all from the $4 million apparently raised in their names. The campaigns with the biggest apparent international reach were under the name of an organization called Chance Letkiva, Chance for Hope in English, registered in Israel and in the United States. You can read more on this investigation on the BBC website. But a French court has sentenced a former rebel leader and politician from the Democratic Republic of Congo to 30 years in jail after finding him guilty of complicity in crimes against humanity more than 2 decades ago. Roger Lumbala headed a rebel movement backed by neighboring Uganda, accused of committing atrocities during a period known as the Second Congo War. A judge said the 67-year-old was found guilty of ordering or aiding and abetting torture and inhumane crimes, summary executions, rape constituting torture, sexual slavery, forced labor, and theft. Lumbala, who was living in France when he was arrested nearly 5 years ago, has refused to accept the legitimacy of the court in Paris. He did not attend the trial, which began last month, though he was in the dock to hear the verdict on Monday. A Russian An-22 military transport aircraft dramatically broke into 2 pieces mid-air before coming down in the Ivanovo region. Footage from December 9 shows the final moments, which was reportedly on a test flight. All crew members on board were killed. The wreckage was later retrieved from a reservoir. The Russian Defense Ministry reported the plane crashed in a deserted area, and the country's investigative committee opened a criminal case related to violation of flight preparation rules. We have cheery news on the world today. Aleppo's Monastery of the Holy Land opened its Christmas village on Monday. Fireworks, displays and performances by local scout troops were seen as visitors enjoyed the festivities and took lots of pictures. Parish priest Father Bajat Kara Kash said it was to bring smiles to the faces of children and families, as well as helping local businesses out. Edward Primo, head of the Scouts, called it a landmark event at the national level with a unique festive atmosphere through children's entertainment and displayed handicrafts, as well as a variety of delicious foods. Nice to see some joy return to Aleppo. Finally on the program, we've seen Christmas trees made from nothing but logs and sometimes from artificial material, but from soap. Imagine our surprise when we discovered one tree crafted from soap, which was unveiled at the Antonin Sisters Secondary School in Roumieh, north of Beirut on Monday. Rita Jallo, a teacher at the school, says the idea was to create the largest bar of soap. Yes, to achieve that, she says the tree sculpture is made from traditional local soap, scented with lemon blossom and other natural herbs. It is completely natural. Bader Hassoun, who's the founder of the Bader Hassoun Eco Village, which helped with the project, says the tree is made from natural ingredients sourced from across Lebanon. They were determined to include elements from every major region to send a complete unified message. The creation weighs over 2 tons. It stands at 3.75 meters tall and is approximately 1.85 meters wide. The city of Tripoli in Lebanon has a soap-making heritage, spanning over a millennium. The craft is based on natural olive oil and botanical extracts from fragrance and health properties. I guess everyone gets a piece at the end of the holiday season. Thanks for watching The World Today. I'm Amarachi Uvani.